You feel guilty for wanting more than the life you were given. It's not because you're selfish, but because you're finally waking up. That ache in your chest, it's not anger or sadness. It's the weight of something new pressing against your old self. You've been carrying the expectations of others so long that your own voice feels like an intruder. And now, for the first time, you're letting it in. But it feels wrong, like a betrayal. Guilt is the price of freedom. You find yourself holding back. At work, you avoid raising your hand. In relationships, you say yes when you want to say no. You smile when you feel empty. You think you're being kind, but it's more like a quiet surrender. It's as if your true self is a guest in a house that doesn't want to be remodeled. You're not even sure who that true self is anymore, only that it's not safe to be known. You remember moments from childhood, your mother's voice saying, "You don't deserve better," or your father's eyes closing when you asked for something simple. You were taught that your happiness was not important. Now, when you start to think differently, it feels like you're breaking the rules of a world that no longer exists. And the guilt, it's like a ghost from the past, whispering that you're not allowed to be happy. This guilt isn't just a feeling, it's a mechanism. It's a leftover from the time when survival meant compliance. You learned early on that your needs were secondary to others. Now, when you begin to prioritize yourself, it triggers a biological and emotional response. The brain that once protected you by suppressing your desires now screams, "You're doing something dangerous." Guilt becomes the alarm that keeps you safe, even when the danger is no longer real. But here's the truth. Guilt is not the enemy. It's a sign that something new is growing inside you. It means you're no longer willing to be invisible. It means you're learning to trust the part of you that once felt unimportant. That part of you, the one that wants more, is not wrong. It's just been waiting for permission to exist. And now, even though it's scary, you're giving it that permission. This guilt is the result of a shadow that once protected you. It's the part of you that carried the weight of others' expectations. That shadow is not your enemy. It's just a part of you that was trying to keep you safe, in a world that didn't understand your worth. But now, as you begin to see the light, that shadow starts to fade. It doesn't disappear, but it no longer needs to control you. You've spent so long trying to fit into someone else's mold that you've forgotten how to be yourself. That's why the guilt feels so heavy. Because it's the first time you're trying to take up space in a world that taught you to shrink. But here's the thing. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy. You just have to be real. And real is messy, loud, and unapologetic. And that's okay. This is the moment when you begin to see the pain as a sign of growth. The guilt you feel is proof that you're changing. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign that something inside you is waking up. You're not just learning to choose yourself, you're learning to be someone new. And that's not a betrayal of your past, it's a celebration of your future. You are not broken because you feel guilty for choosing yourself. You are human because you are learning. The pain you feel is not a failure. It's a sign that you're becoming something more. It's the first time you're allowing yourself to be seen, and that's a radical act of self-love. You're not just surviving now, you're living. And that's not something that should be feared or avoided. It's something that should be embraced. You're not being selfish, you're being honest. You're finally saying, "This is what I want," and that's not a sin. That's a declaration of self-worth. You're learning that your needs are not a burden, they're a gift. And that gift is not for others. It's for you. And that's not a betrayal. It's a breakthrough. You're not abandoning your past, you're creating your future. You're not just choosing yourself. You're choosing to be present. You're no longer allowing guilt to dictate how you feel. You're learning that you don't need permission to be happy. You're learning that you're allowed to take up space. You're learning that your voice matters. And that's not a luxury, it's a right. You're not breaking the rules, you're rewriting them. You're not just surviving, you're becoming. You're not just surviving, you're showing up. You're not just surviving, you're claiming your place in the world. And that place is not defined by others, it's defined by you. You're not just surviving, you're living a life that reflects your true self. And that's not a risk, it's a gift. You're not just learning to choose yourself, you're learning to trust yourself. You're not just learning to be, you're learning to be seen. You're not just learning to exist, you're learning to belong. And that belongs to you. It's not something you have to earn, it's something you have the right to claim. And that right is not a weakness, it's your strength. You're not just healing, you're growing. You're not just changing, you're becoming. You're not just surviving, you're thriving. And that thriving isn't a mistake, it's your truth. You're not just choosing yourself, you're becoming the person you've always been meant to be. And that person is not someone you were taught to be. They're the person you've always wanted to be. And now, finally, you can. You don't need to be perfect to be whole. You don't need to be flawless to be enough. You don't need to be unbreakable to be brave. All you need is the courage to be you. Even when it's messy, even when it's hard. You're not alone in this. You're not the only one learning how to choose themselves for the first time. You're not the only one learning how to heal and grow and become. You're not the only one learning how to belong, and that's a gift. You don't have to apologize for choosing yourself. You don't have to explain your worth to anyone. You don't have to prove your value to the world. You are enough, just as you are. You don't have to earn your happiness. You don't have to justify your dreams. You don't have to apologize for your needs. You are allowed to be you, and that is not a choice, it is a right. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy. You don't have to be fearless to be brave. You don't have to be unbreakable to be strong. You are allowed to be broken. You are allowed to be scared. You are allowed to be unsure. And most of all, you are allowed to be you, even when you don't know what that means yet. You are allowed to be here, learning, growing, and becoming. That is not weakness. That is maturity. That is not a failure. That is a transformation. You are not the same person you were before. You are not the same person you thought you'd be. You are exactly who you need to be, right now. And that is not something to be ashamed of. That is something to be proud of. Because you are not just learning to choose yourself. You are learning to love yourself. That is not a betrayal of the past. It is a celebration of your future. That is not an abandonment of others. It is a return to yourself. That is not a mistake. It is a step forward. And that step is not too big. It is just right. And that right is not a secret. It is a truth. You are allowed to be here, learning, growing, and becoming. And that is not a choice. It is a gift. So, the next time you feel the guilt of choosing yourself, remember this: it is not a flaw. It is a sign you are alive, that you are growing, that you are becoming, and that you are finally learning to love the person you are. So, the next time you feel that ache, don't run from it. Sit with it, breathe into it, and ask yourself, what am I ready to claim now for the first time?